I want to tell you a quick story and then introduce you to my guest. Rebecca Moore really wanted to enjoy the holidays this year and, in her words, go all out for friends and family. And she said, for me, that meant spending money on quality, thoughtful gifts. She's 32 years old. She's a digital marketer from New York City. But the problem is the quality, thoughtful gifts I ended up buying cost me more than I budgeted for, so I did the unthinkable. I put everything on my credit cards. Well, now I'm cash poor, and I honestly have no idea how I'm going to pay this debt off, but I went for it anyway. Now, she's honest, right? What a difference a couple of years make. You know, once a lot of people were flush, including her, with additional savings from the pandemic. You were locked down, you weren't going anywhere, spending a lot. But a lot of consumers have basically exhausted all that excess cash due to the ongoing inflation. We came out of the pandemic to the inflation to the recession, and now they're turning to credit cards to fund their holiday spending. Wage growth, that's been averaging about 5%, but inflation's running over 7%. So consumers are upside down from jump, right? Essentially, that's primarily why the sentiment has been so depressed. And I think psychologically, and I'm no psychobabble expert, but people get so depressed, they kind of throw caution to the wind and say, well, I might as well. Americans are piling on the debt at a time when interest rates are rising and probably will continue to do so. So let's be honest, no one reads the fine print on those credit card agreements, so it's easy to fall victim to dirty card tricks. Well, my guest is an expert on personal debt. Reed Allmand is joining us to talk about the holiday hangover, out of cash. A lot of people are saying, now what do I do? Mr. Allmand, thanks for being with me. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Okay. I just, went through a little story there. I think a lot of people can identify with that. How do they find their way back to the living?
Well, I think, she initially started out with good intentions about thinking about the budget. And so I think that's definitely the smartest thing, is to really be aware of your money and where it's going. I know I have a lot of clients who aren't aware what they're spending every month and how the money flows through. So that would be the first step. And then it's basically doing damage control and seeing, the types of debt you have, what the creditors can do to you in a worst case scenario, and then how are you going to come up with a plan to get out of that debt?
So you sit down and you try to get as close as possible to what you're spending every month. So you at least know what you can't fix anything until you know your current situation. So you blueprint that, and then what? You just start picking it apart, trying to find places to save?
Right. So, obviously you want to, best case scenario, you're going to have 3 to 6 months worth of savings to cover all of your normal living expenses in the event that you have an interruption income. For the budgeting, you can do it the old-fashioned way with pen and paper. There are some great apps out there like mint.com that syncs with your bank, and then you can set up an electronic budget. And throughout the month, you can get alerts if you're going over in certain categories, so you can make, more informed decisions. And then you say, okay, well, this is how much I can devote on a monthly basis to paying off my debt or paying down my debt. And then we want to first attack those with a higher interest rate and then work our way down from there.
Well, let me ask you this. Talking with Reed Allmand, expert on personal debt. Let's say, using the little story I opened up with, let's just suppose that 3 to 4 to 5 months cushion, that's gone. You had the pandemic, then you had the inflation, then you had the recession, then you had the holidays. And let's say, for all intents and purposes, you don't have a cushion. What do you do then?
If you don't have a cushion and you can't really set aside anything and you're going, your paycheck to paycheck, or some people are actually going into a deficit monthly, then you probably should, seek professional representation to work through some options. And bankruptcy may be an option for some people who are not able to financially dig themselves out of that hole.
So I haven't checked, but have bankruptcies gone up significantly in the last quarter, maybe a couple of quarters?
Bankruptcies have ticked up a little bit. Surprisingly, a lot of people are surprised to know that, since the pandemic, bankruptcies are at record lows and are still at record lows right now.
That's great.
Yeah. So indications are, that with inflation and spending that they're starting to creep back up. But your assessment as far as people were nervous during the pandemic, they got some stimulus money and they were really cautious about their spending. But now with inflation, you don't really have a choice sometimes to spend twice as much as you normally would to cover the same needs.
Yeah, and a problem with stimulus checks, enhanced unemployment, anytime you dump that much unearned cash into the economy, it stimulates inflation. So, what helps you on the left hand doesn't help you on the right hand. I would think a lot of these companies would be familiar with people calling up saying, hey, from the lockdowns to inflation to recession to holidays, I'm tapped. What can we do? And I would imagine a lot of them will work with you, right?
Some of them will. I mean, I think the smart ones will. If you're demonstrating, good faith and you're making an effort to pay back your debts, I think it would be in their best interest. But sometimes they don't, or sometimes they're looking, to go ahead and take that loss because it may benefit them, from a strategic, financial statement point of view. But yeah, I mean, it's every creditor has different policies, and you should always start directly with them first and see what kind of arrangements you can make. Yeah,
just don't throw in the towel because generally speaking, I think people will be inclined. We all went through this together. It impacted us differently depending on where you were income-wise and so on, but this isn't a unique situation to just you. So, don't throw in the towel. Don't give up. Just sit down, make a list, start contacting people and say, okay, this is where I am. And this is what I've got outstanding. What can we do to mitigate some of this debt? It may take me a while, but, it's mine. I want to take care of it. And I think you'd be pleased to find out most people will work with you. Reed Allmand, appreciate your time very, very much.